What's up guys, Aroneous here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today's video I'm going to be going over the brand new Fragment Summon Champion that's coming around the corner. That's going to be Timit the Fool, and whether or not you should actually be going for this guy because he is a very unique champion in that he can definitely be a huge help for those trying to strip off buffs in Arena. So let's get into it. Alright, so we have Timit the Fool here. It is going to be a legendary champion, of course. It is a Force HP champion, and it seems like it's possibly going to be a nuking champion. We just don't have any type of, damage tests yet on any of the videos across any content creators yet. So I'm hoping it's going to be a strong nuker based on his kit. His kit is pretty basic, so it must be a damage dealer, right? So let's go over his kit really quickly. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit heals the champion by 10% of their max HP. If the target has no active buffs, each hit also fills the champion's turn meter by 10%. A lot of times, champions that you're facing in Arena are going to have buffs. So unless you decrease the duration of champion buffs before you use him to go, or unless you are a lot faster than the champions placing buffs, a lot of times this is not going to apply to him. Now I will say when it comes to PvE, you could potentially use this champion in PvE as like a wave-based clearer based on his kit. I've already read his kit, but I want to kind of go over it with you today as well. So on his A2, he does attack all enemies, decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns. And this is what I mean by he will not get polymorphed. So anybody who decreases the duration of buffs does not get polymorphed, okay? You have to remove the buffs, whereas this is kind of a way around it. And he has a unique kit because this is the first champion where he decreases duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns rather than by 2 turns. So you do have Andrecia, who is another champion that's a Void Epic champion who has a very similar ability in her kit. Andrecia is part of the High Elves. I actually do like Andrecia. She's kind of like a very mini Necrit, but she's not nearly as strong as Necrit by any means. So this is her ability, attacks all enemies, 75% chance, it books out to 100% to decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. It also increases duration of all increased defense buffs on all allies by 1 turn. So her ability is actually slightly better than his ability because his does not increase the duration of increased defense and therefore it doesn't help with the survivability of your team, whereas Andrecia technically does. Now, I will say Andrecia doesn't put in increased defense on her champions. She only puts it on one champion if she takes a turn, so it's a little bit tougher, right, to utilize her unless you have crazy fast gear on that champion. But then it also diminishes the amount of HP and defense, like EHP, you can put on that champion in general. Whereas for Timit here, he's going to decrease the duration on all enemies by 3 turns, which is great because a lot of champions that you face will likely have a specific mastery, right? So a lot of players have on their support champions. So for example, I'll choose Elva, one of the most annoying champions in the game, especially for live arena. 99% of the player base is probably going to have, where is it? This one right here, Lasting Gifts. 30% chance to extend the duration of any buff cast by this champion by 1 turn. It won't work on block damage, unkillable, revive on death, and taunt. However, she places the ability increased defense, block debuffs, which is an increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown if that mastery procs. It's one of the most annoying things ever. So that's why Plarium is like, okay, let's create this different champion that's unique where he can actually reduce the duration or decrease the duration by 3 turns instead of 2 turns, because then Elva's just going to come back around and place all the buffs again, or you have champions like Mithrala. The cool thing about this guy Kit in A3, because Mithrala, a lot of people bring that up, like, well, he won't have enough accuracy for Mithrala. Well, you could bring in another accuracy champion to pair with him. So for example, I use an HP nuker. If you guys have been watching my account, this is a free-to-play account. And the HP nuker is Samson. Samson does place increased accuracy on the entire team and then nukes the enemies. So he could actually be really well paired with Samson or another increased accuracy champion. For me, I would pair this guy with Samson because Samson increases accuracy, or maybe he increases Samson's accuracy to help pair with Samson's A1, which places stuns. So it kind of, the synergy is there. Whereas he also has in the A3 attacks all enemies before attacking, places a 50% increased accuracy on all allies for 2 turns, and then places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Now, if he's paired with an increased accuracy champ, another person I was thinking of is Yoshi the Drunkard, very old but gold fusion champion. Yoshi could increase the accuracy of this guy. That way, you're almost guaranteeing that he lands True Fears, or, because I'm thinking about Mithrala here, right? Or if you want to build this guy for a straight up nuker only and a little bit of accuracy around 230 to 300, then he could have a boost with the increased accuracy from Yoshi or from Samson, and then his accuracy, say he has 300 accuracy, will be boosted to 450 accuracy with that increased accuracy, and has a higher chance of placing True Fear. True Fear isn't the strongest debuff in the game, but if the True Fear procs on one of your enemies, 50% chance to proc that is, then they cannot use that skill. It puts that skill on cooldown. So if you just killed somebody, and say you have a Duchess that's left over, for example, or a Sifi that's left over, where they try to do that revive, but the True Fear procs on them, well, it's a possible chance that one of their skills gets put on cooldown that they're trying to use, okay? So that's kind of helpful. Now, it doesn't always work. That's very RNG based, so that's the part that's weak about a True Fear or a Fear in general. Now, the other thing that I want to note is that both of these skills are on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, on this one here, on the A2, I didn't actually finish reading it, but if there are no enemies with active buffs, it grants an extra turn, which is kind of cool. Always grants an extra turn if Kaja the Rai is on the same team, even if there are enemies with active buffs. So more than likely, people are going to have buffs. So you would have to make this guy go really fast, which actually makes it so you have less damage on him, because people that are trying to make him as fast as possible, you're typically missing out on other aspects of the kit of that champion. So in this case, if he's like 260, 270 speed, he's going to have somewhat high accuracy, but he's going to have a lot less survivability, a lot less damage. So it can be very difficult. So if there's no enemies with active buffs, it's really hard to get that extra turn. So likely you're going to go in with Kegs of Dread first, and then you're going to go into the Test Your Strength, unless you're building him to go really fast with high accuracy. Then you're going to go with Test Your Strength, and then Kegs of Dread. So it's kind of hard. This kit's a little bit wonky. It's a long cooldown. I'm not really too happy with that. Now going into his passive, whenever an enemy skill successfully activates while they're under a Fear or True Fear debuff, it fills his turn meter by 10%. But successfully activates. Whenever they successfully activate a skill, okay. So that's interesting. 10% turn meter is not much though. So that's kind of crappy in his kit, in my opinion. This should be like 25% or 50% turn meter fill, because he's going to take this turn with Kings of Dread to place the True Fear, or you have to have somebody else place the True Fear. So it doesn't say specifically that Timit had to have placed the True Fear or the Fear. You can go bring in another Fear champion like Mashald, right? Mashald places the Fears, and then it would increase his turn meter. Maybe he could be the damage dealer next to Mashald. So, I mean, again, turn meter by 10% is very weak. Again, they should definitely make this 25%, or should have made it 25% or 50%. Whenever an enemy skill does not activate because they're under a Fear or True Fear, places a Provoke debuff on that enemy for 1 turn. So he can't be used in Magma Boss, because you can't place a Fear or True Fear on Magma Dragon. So that kind of stinks, right? You can't really use him that well. I mean, he can be used in Hydra, but maybe like easy or hard mode only. I don't really foresee him going into brutal or anything like that unless his damage is insane or astronomical. So placing the Provoke won't work on the specific heads, and that stinks, right? I would have hoped that he could just place a Provoke. I feel like his kit's missing something, right? His kit's missing a Provoke. It's missing some other debuffs other than just the Fear. So this particular effect only applies when Kaja the Rai is on the team, so it doesn't even matter. And we don't even know who Kaja the Rai is or what she's going to look like. I'm assuming it's the other clown that was in the videos that Raid Shadow Legends has posted. But we don't know her kit, what she does, how she's going to work with him, how she's going to synergize. Is she a damage dealer or is she a support champion? The aura is increased accuracy in all battles by 50. This really seems like a champion that's more built for early or mid-game players, maybe late-game players. Now, obviously, if you're free-to-play, I always recommend players to go for fusions if they're free-to-play, unless you just don't need another damage dealer. In my case, I might consider going for him. I haven't truly decided yet until I see his multipliers on his abilities. I want to see if he smacks. If he does hit hard, I'm going to be more apt to want to go for him on this free-to-play account. Another reason why I want to go for him is because he's HP based, and with HP based champions, they're usually a lot easier to keep alive in content like Arena. So that's a nice thing. Like, for example, my Samson is very, very tanky. He's got 90,000 HP. He's got like 3,000 defense. So he can take a smack and he won't just die right away. Same thing is going to apply for this guy. I believe that he's going to be very strong against people like Rhodos, right? Because Rhodos is blue affinity or magic and he's force affinity. So if he does 2 hits on the A1 on Rhodos, he could potentially kill him. But a lot of times you do see Rhodos paired with Ultimate Death Knight. So I really was hoping this would have been attacks one enemy 3 times. That would have been freaking sweet, right? But what can you do? Beggars can't be choosers. I personally, for one, will say if you're early or mid-game, you don't have really many nukers on your account, you need help progressing through the game, definitely go for this guy. Until his multipliers come out, I can't say for sure whether a lot of late or end game players are going to go for this guy because his kit is very basic. It's attack all enemies, chance of placing a true fear, but you need a lot of accuracy. You can't build as much damage into him because you want to land those true fears and fears. He will be very good for PvE, especially Doom Tower, because he's got the double AoEs. You can build him with like 320 accuracy. He'll be good through all of hard Doom Tower. That is a huge thing. So mainly he's a wave-based champion just from looking at his kit. And then he's probably going to be halfway decent in Arena. But until we see those multipliers, we don't know how good he's going to possibly be. Anyways, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you on a video soon. Take care.